Welcome back from the coffee break. I hope you enjoyed your coffee and already had some interesting discussions with other participants. I would like to welcome you back to the second part of our keynotes this morning. And we, in the break, fixed the issue of the demonstration of the JavaScript widget, which our boss would like to show to you, to demonstrate to you. And so I would like to hand over to Bernhard. Please demonstrate us the new fancy UI enhancements.
So, second attempt, I hope it will work now. It was not a WinCC UI problem, but an organizational problem with our laptops. You heard already the theoretical stuff about JavaScript, so I only want to show you a very simple demo. This is our WinCC UA user interface as you can know it, and this very simple screen should demonstrate you three basic functionalities of JavaScript. You see that we can access the process image, getting data points, reacting on events, and so on within JavaScript. The upper part of the screen is written and designed in JavaScript. You see here a button. What I would need is a mouse.
Yeah, you can use the mouse.
As next thing. Is there?
There's the mouse.
Ah, there is it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was a cat. That's why the mouse was gone.
And this is the next thing. You can use JavaScript to change properties in JavaScript objects, of course. But as you have seen, if you press this JavaScript button, you also change the color of this control object on the lower side of the screen. So JavaScript can influence control objects, and also in the other way around, if I press the control object, it can animate and change properties in JavaScript. These are the three main functionalities of this new JavaScript interface, working very close together with our WinCC UA. And what you can do with this can look like this, for instance, some dashboard-like screen with some nice animated objects. And I think this is a very big advantage in the future to use these JavaScript things. But don't know if you recognize this, only 3 of these tiles are done in JavaScript. 3 tiles are done in standard WinCC UA using our, what I showed you before on a slide, our chart widget. So we invest heavily because this is one of the most requested features from your side to improve our UI functionality. So we invest a lot and make also some nice features available in standard WinCC UA. Do you have an idea which of these are JavaScript and which are control? Yeah, I think this Google Map style is the simple one. This is JavaScript. Right, on the right side you see this gauge is JavaScript and the bar chart on the left is JavaScript. The other 3 are made in our chart widget. And the chart widget, I show you all these chart types we support. The radar chart, some donut bars, a typical bar chart, stacked bars for instance, stacked bars as percentage, some bubble charts, or a heat map. So Frank, thank you for giving me some minutes of your presentation. Hope you enjoy it in the next, when you use it in WinCC UA. And we are looking forward to see nice screenshots from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernd. So here you can see that it was really WinCC UA, a real WinCC UA demonstration. So now let's continue with my speech. I'm as a product management head will explain you for the next 15 minutes about roughly what's coming up with WinCC UA, what have we done, and what will become soon. First of all, I would like to start, if I remember back to past user days, I figured out that within the last 7 user days, I only missed one single one. And this was last year when you all have been in Amsterdam. If at that moment someone would have told me that I will return on this stage as head of product management and head of marketing and promotion, I probably would have called him nuts. But hey, life is what happens while you're busy doing other plans, and that's why I'm really, really glad to stay here and to welcome all of you. Wow, what an amazing number you are in the meantime. So thank you for coming, and a warm welcome from my side. Thank you. Now, in order to save some time, I would give you some short strategy update news. You maybe heard it already. We prolonged our release cycle from former 1 year to now 1.5 years in order to have a little bit more time to put a little bit more features inside the major versions. But what happens if you prolong your release cycle? The market perception normally is that we are slowing down in innovation speed. And in order to prevent this, we also decided to go for feature packs. So we now have 1.5 years from one to another major version, but in between we want to deliver feature packs. I think personally this is mandatory to keep the pace in such a fast evolving market like software development, because we need to go more and more in direction of continuous delivery, and there the feature packs will help us. These feature packs will contain additional features for sure, but as well also bug fixes we got reported from the market. And don't worry, the feature packs themselves will not cost you additional money. You will get them for free, and so it's also up to you to use the new features of a feature pack or to stay with the basic version as it is. By doing so, we also decided to prolong the maintenance cycle. So now for you and your customer, it's also possible to stay longer at a WinCC version or to switch over to additional features coming from a feature pack without having to do an integration to a complete new version. I think this will help us to remain with the version longer in the market and to have also more stability inside our versions. How does this affect our roadmap, our actual one? I brought the actual roadmap from a time perspective with me, and as you can see, there are already the feature packs listed or put inside. When does these feature packs appear at the market? Well, this is very easy because we bound it to the major marketing events we have within our fiscal year, which is on the one hand side for sure the user days, and on the other hand side the SBS, which is taking place by each end of November each year. So at both of these events, if there's not already a major version dedicated to, you also can expect feature packs in addition. But before jumping into the content, let's stay another short moment on this slide, because I would like to refer and to highlight once again what Bernhard already told us this morning when he showed us the way the SCADA products are evolving or are improving in future. As you can see on the slide, we are not only thinking by having just released the version 3.16 about the next one, which will be the 3.17. No, we also started thinking about, for long-term innovations, about the version after next one, which will be probably the 3.18 and which probably might pop up in the market in 2021. So what I want to say is there are very good reasons that WinCC UA will stay for a very long time out in the market, independently what our colleagues in headquarters are going for innovations for and how do they name it. Having said this, I would like to jump into the features. But before we come to the actual released version, I would like to take a short look back in time. By November last year, we already released our first feature pack, and there we already set our focus on UI enhancements, on tier integration topics, as well as on security. There have been plenty of them, so that's why I only want to highlight some of them. In direction of UI enhancement, I would like to highlight the trend to 2.0 we released, and this is really the next level in customizing of a trend. Just to give you an example, with Trend 2.0 now it's possible to put information from alarms coming and going directly into the trend. So this is giving the operator and the user the possibility to visually correlate information about alarms popping up, to correlate them with data, how they're going to change and how they're going to improve. And this is, I personally think, a very important step to support the operator in doing first steps of root cause analytics, because if something happens, it might be very helpful for him if he has this direct correlation. Regarding TIA integration, we already had this demonstration from Martin Kumera. Thanks you, Martin, for your tunnel demo. There he presented to you and demonstrated to you already the TIA importer. The TIA importer enables you to import engineering information coming from the TIA portal directly into WinCC UA, which means that you don't have to insert all the information coming from the TIA engineering by hand. We also extended our S7 Plus driver in terms of alarming. Since the feature pack 7, the alarms coming from the PLCs are also now supported directly in WinCC UA. About security, I don't want to spend many words because my dear colleague Elisabeth from R&D will us later on give a more detailed insight in what's happening regarding security. So now let's come to the version 3.16 we proudly presented last Friday at the market. Bernhard showed us already a very impressive demonstration about the UI enhancements. For sure, we stick to the focus that we want to go for UI enhancements, for TIA integration and security as well. And that's why we went in direction of JavaScript widget. And I think this now is a very great possibility for you to reuse fancy JavaScripts within WinCC UA's UI without having to implement them from scratch or to build them natively inside WinCC UA. Regarding the chart widget, my personal favorite is the heat map, because the heat map also gives you the possibility to show, especially if you see it in terms of environmental displays, where in which regions, for example, alarms or problems appear more often than in others. Coming to the TIA integration, there we also did another major step regarding the connectivity to our latest PLCs. Now we support with WinCC UA the online browsing. Online browsing means if you have your WinCC UA up and running and there's already a PLC engineered and as well up and running, you just need to connect to this PLC and to get all the information, engineering information from this PLC directly. So this is giving you a little bit more independence from the PLC programming, because you can already start with your solution and the connectivity to the PLC you meet out in the market can be done at a much later state by just online browsing the PLC in order to get this information. Also a highlight inside this version for me personally are the System Connect events. What are the System Connect events? We created the possibility that now it's possible to subscribe inside our control scripting on system events like redundancy switch, data point creation, or log on or log off of a system. This means now you have the possibility to really react on such activities taking place in the system by implementing an appropriate script to do additional evaluation or whatever needs to be done in case, for example, a redundancy switch shows up. And I think this is also a very, very important feature we are delivering now to the market and which should help you to go for better solutions. About the video enhancements, we now support much higher frames, but I think we have also our partner from Excellence, Benjamin, with us, and he will also give you an introduction tomorrow what we have done in 3.16 inside this version. So having said this, I would also like to give you an outlook to what will come up next. I talked about. We have released the 3.16, and now we are looking forward to go for the first feature pack of this version, which probably will show up by November 2018. I put already the planned content, the R&D already starts working on this slide. I just want to highlight two of them. We heard from our sales pitch that digitalization is driving our portfolio very, very hard, and that's why we also need to go in this direction, and therefore I'm very proud that we will show up by end of this year with a native MindSphere connector, which enables you to bring the data from WinCC UA directly to the MindSphere. I also started in parallel discussions with headquarters in how can we best support the Minds app, which has been mentioned already today, so that also our customers can take benefit of using the Minds app and putting just an UA underneath. But not only in direction of cloud, we want to do some enhancement also for the machine-to-machine communication. And here we will go for an MQTT driver, which also will be available by end of this year. Talking about drivers, we missed for a long time very important drivers regarding the Siemens family. And that's why I'm also proud to announce that we will show up with a Profinet driver as well as with a ProfiSafe driver, which enables you to do much better and more easily safety projects and using safety PLCs. Together with the JIT support in GIDI, we also have some engineering efficiency improvements in mind, but the most important one I would like to talk next is the high-speed programming. And due to the fact that I missed some minutes of my speech and I had to give it to my boss because I wasn't able to do it, I would like to welcome Martti Boncorni on stage. He's from our testing group, and he invented the high-speed programming, and we would like to demonstrate it to you right now, and I will give you some further explanation what it's all about. So please, dear Technic, could you please switch the projector? So we need to wake up the PC. Here we go. Security first. So what we see in here is Martin invented for us some control extensions. And these extensions helps you to easily create classes and libraries. And Martin now will show us how to create a class in future. And this is done just by putting a name in. And what we see right now is that in the background, derived from a template, the complete implementation of a class or of the basic of a class is already done by just typing in the name. In this case, there's the class definition as well as a constructor, but what is also important that we already included some commentaries, which I wanted to highlight later on. What the system also does in the background was it looked for who's currently logged on and gathered this information from the operating system and put it already inside the commentary, and so it should be much easier to follow up who of the developer or who inside your team had created these classes. Now Martin creates a function called isSunny. Whoa. That was fast, Martin. How did you do that? So, another very powerful feature inside high-speed programming is the auto text completion for script editing. So what has happened in the past, Martin wrote an extension which looks up a config file, which is shown in here, and here you can define on the one hand side the identifier the program should look for, the expression which should be replaced with, and also the commentary. This file easily can, by just editing, modifying, and saving, can be extended or modified to the personal needs of you, your programmer, or your developer. Is there also a copyright sign inside? Ah, yeah, it is. So could you please bring this also in the commentary easily of our class? Oh yeah, there we go. Great. Now, let's have a look to the function he created so rapidly. Martin, this function doesn't look conform to our guidelines. Is there any possibility to fix this one very easily? As you can see up there, we are using a tool in the background called Uncrustify. And Uncrustify is a freeware tool you just can download from the net, and you need to install on your machine, and as soon as you have done so, this functionality will be able, and this functionality helps you to rearrange, let's say, the code you've written due to rules which are modifiable in Uncrustify, and so it's very easy for you to get a code which is not well written in a conform way and which also meets your coding guidelines. Now let's have a look at the function itself. The function itself says that every third day in a week the sun is shining. This looks either like a bug, or are we already able to control the weather outside with WinCC UA thanks to cloud technology? No, we aren't yet? Oh, unfortunately not, probably because we don't have the MindSphere connector. So this is a bug. You also already found a bug report for it. That's great. Now, is there any possibility to link these information together during code scripting? Okay, now what you can see is Martin just inserted the bug ID inside the commentary. And why did he do so? Because now we are coming to the next important feature by usage of another freeware tool. Some of you may have heard already about Doxygen. Doxygen has been used to generate online help. And that's why we also spend so much effort in creating this kind of commentaries, because if Martin, and he has already done, creates an online documentation for us, all the information coming either from the auto text completion or from the automatic class creation or whatever the developer inserts inside the commentary is already put inside the online documentation. And as you can see in here, and that's why we linked the information of the bug report already inside the commentary. It's very easy to have also in the online documentation some kind of bug fix lists. And this might be not only interesting for your customer to see if he receives a new version of your script, which kind of reported bugs has been already solved. This also could help you inside your development if you have a separated group, that the testing group will see, due to the online help, what was the bug about, or if the developer implemented a new function and he spent the effort to describe the behavior of the function, so you can put it inside and the testing group knows how it works. So I think this was a great, short but great introduction. We're going to release this functionality, like I said, by Feature Pack 1, and I would like to say thank you. Well done, Martin, for the presentation. Thank you. Could you please switch the projector? And now it's time to hand over to my dear colleague Elisabeth from R&D, and she will give us a more detailed insight in what happens in R&D and especially what's the security topic about.
Well, thank you, Frank, and a very warm welcome also from my side to my hometown Vienna. I hope you like it here. My name is Elisabeth Bakani. I'm responsible for R&D, consulting and support for WinCC UA. Today, I will first speak about our safety activities and how these can help you even in non-safety projects. My second topic is security. I will give a wrap-up on what we did since last year's user days on this topic. And my last point will be our next generation archiving project, which evolved out of the NoSQL research activities that we did already for a couple of years. Let me start with safety. In 2008, WinCC UA was certified according to IEC 61508, Seal 3. Such a certificate is valid for 3 years. Every year you have to pass a successful surveillance audit. And after 3 years, you need to go through a recertification. Our last such certificate expired last year and was not renewed so far. Reason is a new technical specification according to IEC 61508 that led to a number of additional requirements from our certification body, and this within a pretty short amount of time. So since that, we're working on fulfilling these additional requirements, and we are targeting a new certification for version 3.16 at the end of this year. Please note, we cannot promise nor guarantee that we will get such a certificate. This is of course up to the certification body. And please also note that this does not mean that you cannot get a certificate for your safety project, but of course it's easier if every involved component holds its own certificate. We were also looking at ProfiSafe, which is a technology for safe communication according to IEC 61508. And we developed a prototype ProfiSafe driver based on Profinet. And we will discuss the findings of this prototype with our certification body and then finalize this so there will be a ProfiSafe and Profinet driver available within WinCC. This finally closes the safe communication gap between the end of a WinCC driver on the one hand side and the PLC at the other side. So most of you are probably not working in safety critical projects. How can you benefit from this? Well, there are a lot of benefits, we think. I can just name a few. My first example is the features that were derived out of the hazard and risk analysis that we are doing for more than 10 years. Typical examples are better monitoring facilities, better diagnosis possibilities, stricter authentication. So these are typical examples. My second case is the high quality development process. You have to prove, for example, for the safety certificate that you have a full traceability from the requirement over the code belonging to this requirement, and then of course the test cases and the tests performed to fulfill this requirement. Other examples are coding guidelines. Of course, tooling have to be evaluated in a special way. My third example is test management and automation. Here we are really proud to say that we have a coverage, a line coverage of over 90% of our safety-related code. So 9 out of 10 lines are touched by our tests. This is really high. And as you can see in the chart behind me, we put a lot of effort into extending our test cases and also raising the degree of automation that we have. This is also important to what Frank mentioned earlier, this continuous delivery. You need a lot of automated test cases. So all this together makes WinCC even better, and what is good for WinCC is also good for your projects. Excuse me. Let me quickly wrap up what I told you last year on our security activities. The industrial set of standards, IEC 62443, has a lot of parts into it. And we, with WinCC as a component supplier, are looking at the parts 4.1 and 4.2. There are other stakeholders that have to cover the other parts of this set of standards. For example, system integrators or asset owners or operators. Okay? So where do we stand today on part 4.1 and part 4.2? Well, ETM got a certificate on part 4.1 in August 2017 for its development process. Regarding part 4.2, there are 4 security levels that you could try to reach. We started looking at security level 1, looked at what gaps we have, how we can close these gaps, discussed solutions with security experts, and have started implementing these solutions in WinCC. Some of them are already available in version 3.16, but there are more to come in version 3.17 and probably beyond. In the long run, we are targeting security level 3, but we are going to do a step-by-step approach. By the way, if you are interested in this topic, and I know at least some of you are very interested in this topic, tomorrow there's going to be a workshop on how to improve security, so please don't miss this workshop if this is a topic for you. Next generation archiving, or archiving for WinCC. Originally, we started looking at newest database technology to see how we can take advantage of this technology, namely NoSQL databases for WinCC. In the meantime, we decided that we not only want to use these new technologies, but also want to bring in more flexibility in our archiving. So together with CERN, as part of CERN's Open Lab research activities, we work on this next generation archiver, and also together with CERN, we came up with the architecture that you see here. There is one data manager similar to what you know from now. Then there is one front-end manager that handles WinCC specific parts. So smoothing would be an example, or building up of queries. And then there can be one or several back-end managers that handle the database specific parts. For example, persisting value into the database product itself. Yeah? So this architecture brings us a lot of advantages. I will just name 3 of them. Well, number 1 obviously is you can run several backend managers in parallel, means that you can archive your data in more than one database out of one WinCC project. Second advantage is you could archive the same data point in more than one database if you configure it that way. And the third advantage is we did an abstraction layer for this backend manager, and you could use this abstraction layer to write your own backend manager. So you could write a backend manager for the database product of your choice if you need this, and if we do not provide this for you and do not support this. In parallel, we were also looking at which database we want to use in future. So we were evaluating a number of databases. Last year, our favorite was MongoDB, with some question marks and some risks. So we decided to put in more effort and more time with a special focus on performance for the evaluation, for the further evaluation of the databases. So what we did is we compared and measured MongoDB together with InfluxDB, which was the second NoSQL database placed in our evaluation, and compared this with our current solution, HDB, the value archive, and RDB based on Oracle. If we're looking at the reading performance, we can see that all 4 solutions behave in a pretty similar way with low reading rates. When you raise the reading rates, you will see that InfluxDB becomes much better than MongoDB and also better than the RDB. HDB here is still better. The background is that we measure here very simple queries. As soon as the queries are getting a bit more complex, the reading of the data is getting a bit more complex, then this changes immediately. Please don't look at the absolute numbers. We did this on very ordinary hardware. The comparison is what is important. We also looked at the write performance, of course. How did we do this? We start sending to the database 20,000 values per second and are slowly increasing this rate until we get in an unstable state. We're looking at memory if this raises, and we see that the database is not able to handle the amount of data anymore. We stop raising the amount of data we send, and we start decreasing again, also in the same steps, until we are getting back in a stable mode. And here we can see that the InfluxDB with the next generation archiver can handle about 50% more data than the other solutions. Why is that? Well, InfluxDB is specialized on time-based data, and of course, for WinCC UA, we do have a lot of time-based data. So, beside performance, what other advantages does InfluxDB have? Well, it works for small and large-size data. It runs on very low-end hardware as well, which is important for us. Segmentation is available. This means you can export data, delete them, and later on re-import this data. This is supported. There's an open source version available, great. Cloud support is given. It's very, very space efficient. It takes about 25% of the space than any of the other databases that we looked at because it's only storing the deltas. So this is also quite nice. It has an established user base and community. There's support available. There's an SQL-like query language available, and it's particularly good for online aggregation. It has a few drawbacks. Some features are only available in the commercial version. It is a relatively new product and is US-based. That is not per se a disadvantage, but of course we would like to have representation also in Europe. Next, soon there are user days in London, so it's slowly spreading out also in other continents. So, coming back to next generation archiving project, today we are working on a first pilot version with limited functionality. Of course, we can write events and alarms in an optimized way. We can read event and alarms, and we can also use the queries that coming out of our standard screen, of our standard alert screen. Message splitting, archiving groups are supported. Status model is supported as you know it now in WinCC UA. And as I told you already before, we are going to provide you with a standardized documented backend API that we also use for our InfluxDB backend and that you could use to write your own backend. Of course, there's also user interface for configuration and monitoring. Yeah, so this is a really challenging and interesting research project, and hopefully will give our archiving in future more performance and more flexibility. And we plan to be able in 2019 to work together with the ones of you on selected 1 or 2 pilot projects with this pilot version of the next generation archiver. Which brings me to another really challenging R&D topic, namely the IoT suite. And for that, I would like to hand over back to Frank. Ah, here he is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This sounds really promising, isn't it? Your applause.
Thank you.
I'm very excited, especially about the NGA, the Next Gen Archiver. I think there we will really do the next step in archiving and really great stuff. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I would like to ask you to stay for another 10 minutes in the background, and
Okay.
then I would like to call
Great.
you back. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Applause for Elisabeth. Thank you. So now coming probably to the most challenging part for me today, because within next minutes, 15 minutes about, 20, maybe longer, I would like to explain you what's about with WinCC UA and digitalization. We heard a lot about digitalization, and it's in everyone's mind, so and that's why also we from ETM side, it was about a year ago, started to think about how do we bring WinCC UA and digitalization together in a way that you benefit most out of it. And so we started to think about a topic, and we named it as a project name IoT Suite, and now I would like to present you the ideas and what the R&D made out of our ideas in the next couple of minutes. Like I said, first start with edge computing. For sure, when we started thinking about digitalization, a trend popped up named edge computing, which really supported us. And also IoT, everyone knows what IoT means. IoT stands for Internet of Things, but this is the commercial expression out of it. Then they try to do IoT, Industrial Internet of Things. I found another very nice explanation, which I put on my slide, which means informational technology meets operational technology. And I think this is what it's all about. We need to bring the fast evolving technology of IT with software development, new development, programming languages popping up, and it's really fast evolving. We need to bring this innovation speed to the operational technology. The operational technology instead is improving much slower, and their reliability is the most important thing. But on the other hand side, they also want to benefit from this innovation. And that's why we looked at the market by having the term edge computing in mind and thought about what does the market need. And there we very early figured out that there are two major views from our customers to this topic. And I try to separate them in, on the one hand side, the OEM view, and the other hand side in the brownfield or end customers view. But let's stay for a moment with the OEM view. For an OEM, for a machine builder, the machine he's producing are most important. It's independent for him to whom he sells the machine. He wants to stay in contact with his machine. He also wants to add additional functionality to his machine, especially after having delivered the machine to the customer and where he is probably not able to touch it anymore. And therefore, the edge computing is a very interesting technology for him he tries to leverage. In opposite, we have, like I said, the brownfield view. Or I personally prefer the term of end customer view. Because an end customer has pretty similar needs to bring, for example, additional functionality to machines, but he's completely vendor unspecific. So for him, a single machine is only a small part of a bigger picture. So he also wants to have analytics and stuff like this at the machines he's using, but this needs to be vendor independent. And that's why he's also looking at the same technology and asking for solutions in this kind of technology, but from a different standpoint. We as ETM, for sure, we are in the skater market. We are skater guys. And that's why for us the brownfield solution is much more interesting, and that was also the way we went on with our thoughts. I would just like to mention at this point, maybe you have been at the HMI fair in Hanover, which took place in last April. There Siemens announced an edge device named Industrial Edge. And Industrial Edge is also coming from our business unit, but the Industrial Edge product or solution is only focusing on the OEM scenario. And we as EDM, we got the chance to set up a similar scenario, but for the brownfield. So now have a more closer look to what does it mean. On the one hand side, we have these edge devices where we need to bring on additional functionality and which needs to be maintained very easily. But on the other hand side, we also try to do something new because we try to create something which is very easy to use, and which is not that complex like in WinCC or engineering sometimes shows up. And we also want to have these devices, if we are going to create one, that they can be commissioned very easily. And by saying very easily, we thought about an electrician should be able to install the box and to do the basic configuration. So we try to create something, or we would like to create something, which is easy to configure and where you don't need to have to do engineering. The last point at the edge device use case is the separation of concerns. In future, it might happen that IT technology and OT technology merges together. But up to now, the customer are still forcing us to deliver this kind of technology in separate devices so that if I do something on IT side, it never will harm my operations, because as soon as operation stops, the big trouble starts immediately. Having looked at the edge device use cases, we also figured out an edge device only, that's not sufficient what the customer's looking for. And that's why we thought about the infrastructural use cases, and there we figured out that we need to have somewhere some kind of central repository, I would like to name it. A central instance which is able to monitor all the devices being inside the system or the environment, to collect device-specific information and to provide maybe something like an inventory list. It was very surprising to me when I talked to customers and I heard that a lot of them, that they don't have a clue what kind of automation devices they are using, what's the current version, firmware version they are up on the systems running and so on. For sure they can figure out if they go to procurement and if they look what has been installed inside, but they don't have it at a glance. So we need something which really gathers this information for us. We also need something coming from a central repository which is able to easily deploy functional blocks or apps or maybe updates to the devices. And last but not least, the repository itself, it should be managed centrally, and it would be very nice if such kind of repository could take care about updating itself. So today I don't want to receive a mail from a vendor telling me that there's a new security patch available, and then I manually have to download the security patch, I have to put it on a USB stick, and then I have to walk around my plants in order to manually install everything. No, the repository should update itself, and I just want to decide at which moment these kind of updates should be deployed to the machines. So having divided this whole topic in two major parts, the edge device and the infrastructural one, we figured out that edge box might be not a good idea because it's more than an edge box. And in this moment, the term popped up in our mind to name it IoT suite. Why? Because it consists for sure out of an edge box software, but also of a deployment software. And now I would like to ask Elisabeth to help me uncover our edge box and our deployment. I will give you some details later on. So here we go. We didn't spare no effort to bring a lot of hardware with us. And what you see in here are several boxes. Just for a short explanation, the box down here is a simulator with an IoT box on it. There's a 7 Plus. We have edge boxes of ours. Then on this side there is the deployment service, and we also put WinCC open architecture on top of it as well, because we can demonstrate you later on or in the breaks that it's already possible to connect our IoT suite system also with the SCADA system. Let's jump inside. When we figured out that we need an edge box, we were looking what does an edge box software requires, and I just listed up here so the basic requirements of an edge system. And by looking at them, we very rapidly found out that we don't need to start from scratch because we have already a perfect fitting SCADA product for these needs. And this is exactly what we have done. We just took a Linux operating system, we based our latest WinCC UA on top of it, and then the challenge started because in order to make it purely configurable and easy to use, we need to put a project on top of it which turns a standard OA into an edge box software. Functionality is going to be deployed by apps on top of the projects, and we start to deliver with the first version already some basic apps I'm talking about later. We also did this kind of architecture to really, at a very early stage, to make you part of this kind of new ecosystem we are creating in here. Because basing everything on WinCC UA, you have the best, as our partners, the best knowledge about how to use WinCC UA, and this also could benefit you in terms of working with IoT suite, but this I also will explain later on. Now let's have a short look to the basic functionality of the edge box software itself. There's for sure already apps available for connectivity for a 7 Plus. You can have a subscribing app to subscribe to other devices. There's some basic functionality like data mapping and a rules engine inside. And for sure there's also an app for dashboarding to visualize the information. And last but not least, a publishing app in order to publish information collected by the box and you want to share with other devices or systems inside your environment. But we will see this later on in the live demonstration, much more intensive. The on-premise administration, the infrastructural service, we named it OPA. OPA in German means in English grandfather. We named it on-premise administration for good reasons, because other edge solutions also coming from the competition, they are all in somehow equal that their edge devices needs to connect to a back-end service being installed inside a cloud or is driven inside a cloud. But we also at the same moment figured out by talking to customers that the customers currently are not really willing to have plenty of devices inside their environment which are connected each by their own with a public cloud service running somewhere. And that's why we invented a piece of software which is on the one hand side able to run on-premise as well as in a cloud instance, in our case in Azure. So the general functionality we're delivering with first version is for sure you have a repository management where you can see all the apps being inside the repository, including their versions and so on. There's a dedicated app management. This was important because it's not sufficient only to know which versions are on inside my repository and which ones I want to deploy. We also integrated at a very early stage the possibility to have various states of the apps available. This you need to have if you do some development, and if you have already some productive devices inside your environment, you need to prevent that a non-tested application is deployed automatically to a productive device and might harm it. There's a device management inside. It's just like a fleet management. You see all devices being connected, including their status. For sure, there's a device configuration inside where you can have a more closer look to the devices. This is also important because in the device configuration, you see at a central point which kind of apps are already installed in which version. And for sure, there's also an update management available where you can configure in which way the updates should be deployed to the devices. But that's enough for now. Let's go to the layers of the suite and their purposes. Like I said, the edge box and the gateway you see on the slide, they are from a code stack identically. They're the same software, but we just named it in a different way because the gateway is running on an embedded system. The IoT, this very small box over there, is comparable to an industrial Raspberry Pi, and that's why it's also limited in terms of data values being able to handle. And that's why we named it Gateway. The edge box is running on a nano box, and I tell you this because we also decided that in the very first version we bundle this kind of software strictly to Siemens hardware. That's not the end of the road. For sure, we are looking in future also to deploy these kind of software solutions, let's say hardware independent, but as a startup, we strictly bundled it to Siemens hardware. Our deployment services, or the OPA, like I said, is able to run either on-premise. There you can choose any kind of PC hardware where our Linux operating system is running on. And for sure, you also can run it inside the cloud. We tested it already based on Azure, but also there we're looking forward to migrate it also to a Siemens cloud solution named MindSphere. So what happens if I create the packages and the apps? They're going to be stored inside this centralized repository. It's possible to synchronize the central instances either running in the cloud or on-premise to keep them synchronized. And then the really important thing starts from the OPA. I can really deploy just by a one-click packages to the devices, and by doing so, the packages are not only transferred to the device, they are automatically installed in background, and so they can be used. Also, the Edgebox software itself is a package. So you can upload either the packages or you can import them directly. If you have deployed them to your devices, an operator normally just needs to use them and to work with. It might happen that if there's the need to do additional configuration, so if the app, for example, needs some additional inputs which are not given by purpose, then he might to do some basic configuration by just mapping, let's say, his IOs to the app so that the app knows what to do or what kind of information it should use. Coming to the deployment itself and to what's the idea of ETM behind this. I wrote on this slide deck that ETM will provide only core software and basic services. This means that we created this kind of infrastructural service. It's software as a service. And that we take care about that these kind of services are up and running and run properly. And for sure we will take care to maintain and to further develop our Edgebox software, the framework software. And we want to deploy it via our ETM cloud instance, which is hosted by cloud.etm.at. But if you as a customer want to step in, we just need to clone this instance so that you can run your own deployment instance within a cloud, and then by synchronization of them you will receive always the latest updates and the latest apps available. From there you can download them in order to work on them, or an end customer also might use it, and then we take care that he's going to be supported with core software and basic apps. But a basic Edgebox is meaningless. What we really need to have is additional functionality, and this brings me to the next slide. I named it Advanced Apps. Apps which really brings a benefit and an additional functionality onto the box. As an example, OEE. Everyone wants to have an OEE, and that's why OEE we personally see as an own app, which should be developed by you as a partner. We as ETM, for sure, we get paid for if we get asked heavily by customers. We also will do this business. But this is something where we really see you as the best ones to create these kind of apps, because you have the perfect knowledge about which kind of solution, which kind of functionality our end customer needs to have. And that's why I also would like to invite you at this point already to become part of the ecosystem and to start at least thinking about how to migrate the one or other solution into an app. And then we also all together can start thinking about how to make it work in order to set up a real ecosystem. Coming to the roadmap, I'm very happy R&D made it available by this event, and you can see it here on the table. We start the piloting phase. We took the decision up front that we will not invite all of you to become pilot customers. The pilot customer phase should dure until end of this year. Because we need an explicit support for pilot customer, because it's not just a piece of software, beta software we can throw over to our customers and partners and let them play with it. It's about setting up infrastructural systems, and it's a little bit more complex. That's why we decided to go for dedicated partners. But if you have any interest, please do not hesitate to contact either me or my boss Bernhard Reiche, and then we can discuss if it's also possible for you to join this piloting phase. Nevertheless, we want to finish this piloting phase by end of this year. So at the SBS fair with Feature Pack 1, we want to go for the official release. And from then on, we really go in direction of continuous deployment. Because as I said, for me personally, I think it's mandatory for a software company to go in continuous deployment. And continuous deployment means by using such a kind of technology that it's really continuous. So I personally expect updates either of the basic software or of the apps in a time frame of or in a cyclic time frame of 4 weeks. So there it really you don't have to take every update coming up, but it will speed up our deployment and our delivery phase very fast. So the conclusion is, have you ever thought about how to benefit from digitalization? Our answer will be IoT Suite will bring your solution to the world of IoT. You just need to leverage the knowledge you already have about WinCC UA. For sure we will tell you how to create an app or how to make an app and then a package. And we take care about the rest. So welcome to digitalization. So Now I would like, thank you. Now I would like to welcome Daniel Spitzer on stage. He will operate the system for me. Dear Technic, please switch over to the HDMI. Thank you. So we start at the smallest device at the gateway, at this one. Oh yeah, you're showing it. Okay. And the first scenario we want to show you, we already wired our simulator to the IoT box, but we would like to show you how to configure the data input for this box. So please open up the IoT box, IoT app. So in here you can see all the data shield, and there you can also see an electrician already can see if you choose the entries, if the values received and are correct, or if the connection he made, the wiring, is working correctly. Now we already got the information inside the box. Now we would like to publish these from the very small box to a greater edge box. Therefore, we are changing to the publishing app. Inside the publishing app, you see always as a usability on the right-hand side the source, and in the middle of the app normally is the working area, we named it. So just by drag and dropping the input we have inside the area, you can easily publish these values. Values are not automatically published. It's always a dedicated decision of the operator which kind of information he wants to publish. Now we need to switch away from the gateway because we now change over to the line box. He also will switch the projector. Now we would like to subscribe on these values we have collected. So therefore we need to go to the subscription app. So the subscription app, in here you see all the devices available, also including their connection state. As soon as they are connected, by the second tab you just can select which information you want to subscribe from source device. We also, for the sake of easiness, provided a kind of network scan, because we believe in an operator standing in front of his machine, and if he wants to have information from another machine, he should not need to know where does this machine stands or what's the IP address, and therefore we implemented a rudimentary scan to look up other devices in the network. We will not do the scan. All he needs to do is, due to the fact that the NanoBox has 2 physical network ports, he need to choose on which port the software should scan the subnets, but we skip this one. Thank you. So now we got the values of our simulation inside our edge box. Now we would like to visualize it. There is, like I mentioned already, a dashboarding app in the standard available. We can just open it up. And also in here you can see, if Daniel, please switch over in the configuration mode. It works in the same way. On the right-hand side you see the sources being available. For example, the values we recently have subscribed. And just by dragging, dropping them inside here, you can also choose the way of how to display the information. Just by dragging and dropping you can easily extend your dashboard, or just do me a favor and delete one of the tiles, please. This is also done just by drag and dropping them to the trash bin. It's done. So in switching back to the operational mode, here you can see. So, but this is what comes along with the basic version. So I already talked about dedicated apps, or I named advanced apps. And this makes us switching over now to our on-premise administration, because there I would like to show you how this one works. Now we are at the central repository in the right upper end, and we start with the device view. Currently you see all devices being connected from the IoT suite. Like I mentioned, there are only 3 of them, 2 edge boxes and a gateway. They are listed in here, but you can see already their current connection status. And if we now click on one, on the Edgebox 18, for example, we end up in the device configuration view, and in here you can see already which kind of application are installed on the device. In order to save some time, we already installed, let's say, machine device specific, in our case, a specific app to represent the information from our simulation, which is named DOORD. But by just clicking, you easily now could install any kind of app being available in the repository to any kind of these IoT suite edge devices. Now let's switch back to the Edgebox we have been recently before. The dashboard's still there. Yeah, so let's go to the home screen and please show us the Door app. And this kind of Door app, in my opinion, could come also from you or should come in future from you because you, like I said, has the best knowledge what the customer really needs and which kind of functionality. Just to show you, and then we also will finish, another short experimentation. Here at the simulator there are 4 push buttons, and each push button will light up if you press it, and it should simulate a door relay by means of, if I pressed the button, the relay sends the signal, the doors open, and what we have done inside our app is just to use the rule map to have a logical combination of these 4 entries, which summarize it to an alarm shown by the light. And now, Daniel, please press the right one. So as you can see, the lamp at the machine directly is lighting up. The value is transferred via the gateway to the Edgebox and is brought up inside this app. The doors showed as open, and because one door is open, the alarm shows up. So I hope I didn't confuse you too much because I tried several times to present this kind of system, and it's not the easiest one because it's very complex. But I hope you enjoyed the show. I would like to say thank you very much to you, Daniel, and please, Technic, switch back. I also would like to mention this. Thank you. I also would like to mention that this demonstration setup will remain on stage. So now in the lunch break as well as in the afternoon break, you have the chance to come on stage. Daniel will be here, will be happy to assist you, to show you the system, and you also can put all your hands on and you can start playing with functionality of the system. So please welcome, be welcome on stage and get in touch with this new technology. I'm looking forward to have discussions with all of you in how we can do best out of this technology. And once again, I hope this will help you to bring your solution in direction of digitalization. Thank you.
Yeah, Elizabeth, Frank, a big thank you to you. I think it was a very interesting presentation, even more exciting demonstration. Particularly you, Elizabeth, I know your voice is about to break down, and thanks for still being here today and giving the speech yourself. Yeah, I'm curious actually what our audience thinks about all the new features of the version 3.16, but furthermore, what feedback we will receive from all of you on the IoT suite, and I think that's very high up on the things you hopefully want to discuss with us now during the lunch break with my colleagues and myself. So lunch will be served outside the auditorium, and I would like to ask you being back here sharp at 2 o'clock for the presentations of our partners. Please enjoy your lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.